The UFC heads to Sydney, Australia for UFC 325. I'm Claudia Bellofatto here in the Florida studios for CBS. This is the early edge, and we're going to break down the whole card for you. Brought to you by BetMGM. Make it legendary. I am joined by the usual suspects. We have Brian Campbell, Danny Brasco. We're going to be joined by a third member, Hayden Iverson, later on for the main and the co-main and his best bets. Fellas, we got to talk about what was a great intro card. We talked about maybe it would be for the new fans to UFC joining Paramount Plus, the Paramount Plus era with Gaethje and Pimblett. And not only that fight, but the rest of that card was the perfect intro, BC, for people new to UFC.
Yeah, I mean, look, what do you want to send to casual fans? How about a love letter disguised as a sloppy action fight in the main event, which gave us some clarity that we needed in the title picture moving forward with Justin Gaethje getting that interim strap. But speaking of the slaps, the punches thrown, the calamity, what a fun fight to kick off a new era.
It really was. Danny, what'd you think of it?
It was a blast. I was on the desk with BC and Hakeem. We were going crazy in the studio. Gene Silva turned Arnold Allen into a playground at the end of their fight. Rose and Natalia Silva, close, controversial one. 4 straight finishes to kick off the card. It was bangers across the board, and I think we're going to get another exciting one on 325, Claudia.
Absolutely. Ton of storylines to hit. This one, of course, headlined by a featherweight title rematch. Alexander Volkanovski and Diego Lopes. Let's start there, fellas, because this first fight, in the first round, you looked at it, and Lopes was just taking it. We know he had the lesser resume, but he was there for a reason. Just 4 years in the UFC, fighting for a title the second time. So he has the respect. And I sort of cheated. I looked later on. I see some of you guys are on Lopes. How important is familiarity in this one? And you guys can tell me what storylines. But I'm curious, Danny Brasco, how important is familiarity for these two fighters, and who does it really give the edge to in your mind?
Well, Volkanovski won 49-46 in their first fight. He did get dropped by a right hand uppercut combination in round 2, but he handled himself. He won the footwork battle. He had the better boxing, the better fight IQ. And Lopes even admitted that he fought with his aggression. And you saw Volkanovski kind of play that matador to the bull when he was chasing and unable to cut off that cage. So you're asking yourself, who does the advantage go to right now? It's probably got to be the champion, who thinks that, he probably won't lose again until he retires. But I imagine Lopes is going to come with some sort of wrinkle to his game. He's got to mix it up some way because it didn't work. He was chasing the matador, as I said. And I think he comes with some more fire and some more intelligence in this one and this time. And
you said your headline. Oh yeah, go ahead, BC.
I'm just jumping in because I'm so excited here. I got to echo Danny. I think we're going to get a much more dangerous version of Diego Lopes in the second fight because I don't think that first fight could have gone any worse for him outside of hurting Volk late, dropping him in round 2. He self-admitted all the things you would want somebody to say after a loss. He didn't follow his game plan. He was not cutting off the cage. He was ultimately making it easy for one of the greatest tacticians we've ever seen in this sport. Now, it's never actually easy against somebody as aggressive as Lopes, but from the win over John Silva last September to the work we're seeing him do in the wrestling department specifically, I think it'd be foolish to expect anything but a more dangerous, more comfortable, more focused, because he did say one thing, and I like the honesty. He said the bright lights were too big for me. The first 5-round fight in the UFC run for me. First championship fight. Lot of firsts. Well, now he's gone to hell and back with John Silva, and I think he'll be ready this time around.
Lots of firsts, which we'll talk about what bet we actually like for this later on. But the fact that went the distance, Volk won that by unanimous decision, I have to think this one goes the distance too. Because if we don't see round 1 where Lopes is getting the bleep beeped out of him and they can both go pound for pound, and we know what Volk's doing, his 10 straight title fights he has behind him. I mean, I think this is going to be a perfect number 2 card on Paramount Plus for those who are new to UFC. BC, you talked about your storyline there. Lopes learning his lesson from that first fight, UFC 314. Danny, I see here you have the 35 and over curse. Is Volk the exception? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, this trend popularized by BC's guy, Luke Thomas, really illustrated that fighters in the 125 to 170 pound divisions have really struggled once they get over that 35-year-old mark. And I think the record now stands at like 2-30 with both wins belonging to the 170 pound Tyron Woodley. You go below that 155 to 125, it shows the speed kills. And Volkanovski, the only fighter to win past 35 years old. Now the record is, I believe, 1-17. Is it Volk that's the exception that can defy Father Time? Is it the matchup that's the exception against Diego Lopez? We'll see, but he'll have to do the undoable once more.
And Volk on home turf, maybe a little extra motivation there. Let's get to the lightweight co-main, Dan Hooker, Benoit Saint-Denis, who is a massive favorite here, around -400. Dan Hooker, the last fight was back in November. We saw a submission loss to Arman Tsarukyan in the second round. Dan Hooker's coming in here with that loud mouth, as he always does, and he says, yeah, BSD, he doesn't realize. I don't care about his health. I don't care about his well-being. I'm like, dude, do you know what BSD did? He fought in the special forces. Like, I don't know if he's afraid of you. BC, what storyline are you looking out for here?
I mean, look, subtly, I think the real storyline here is this is a dressed-up opportunity for BSD to extend that win streak to 4 if he can get it done and catapult himself into the top 5 at lightweight, putting those 2 stoppage losses that he had in the rear view. But let's be honest, for the fans, the real storyline is you circled this bout as soon as you heard it on this fight card, because this is a fight of the night, fight of the year, waiting to happen. We just had the fun theatrics of Gaethje versus Pimblett. I think this fight could exceed that because they're both willing to do that. Even with the changes to BSD's game under new trainer Nicholas Ott, he still has said in all the interviews leading up to this, he's ready for blood, he's ready for war. They have all but guaranteed the fireworks we expect. It ain't July 4th, but it's going to feel like it down under. Let's go. Let's go.
Let's go. You talked about those back-to-back losses for BSD back in 2024. He switched to Ott with his new trainer. Since then, Danny Brasco, 3 straight wins for him, all stoppage wins. What are you expecting from this one?
It's going to be a firefight. Shout out Boondock Saints. Oh my goodness, 2 willing brawlers that are going to stand and trade. BSD's style is just to melt you with the pressure. He is relentless. You talk about his background in the special forces, counter-terrorism fighter, and he fights with that courage and bravery in the octagon. Speaking of courage and bravery, Dan the Hangman Hooker fears no man. He is going to stand right in the middle, look to land those vicious kickboxing combos, elbows, knees. It's going to be who breaks first, and I cannot wait for this one.
And BSD needed just 16 seconds to knock out Beneil Dariush in his last fight. Didn't take very long. I assume this one will maybe go a bit further than that. All right, less than 30 seconds. Danny Brasco, give me one more storyline you're looking out for here on this card.
The return of Mauricio Rufy. He was broken by Benoit Saint-Denis in his last fight, and a lot of MMA fans are saying he got fraud checked, but not so fast. This is a prolific striker that gets a striker to match up against here. I think he has a chance to show out and bounce back and remind fans who Rufy is.
BC?
Well, yeah, shout out to him right there. He's also training with Volkanovski now, by the way, and moved to Australia. My storyline will surround the lovable heavyweight Tai Tuivasa, who returns a little bit more than a year off. He won the Amazing Race on CBS, Australian version, but he hasn't won a UFC fight in a long time, a 5-fight win, a losing skid. We expect his fight with Talshin Teixeira to be mayhem. Do you expect it to go past round 1? Teixeira doesn't really do business past round 1. Either way, my theme is this. We're not hiding it. It may be win or go home. You want to talk about must win? Very few fighters have survived 6-fight losing skids and still stayed employed with the UFC. I'm thinking Tony Ferguson, BJ Penn. It's been very few far between. This is a must win, and that's going to bring the lion out of the Tuivasa man himself. I hope if he wins that Danny's willing to drink a shoey on the HQ desk, and then we can all get fired and walk away. It'd be great. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I don't think I'm all for viral moments. I just don't need to see anybody getting whatever diseases comes from drinking beer out of a shoe. We'll talk about that fight more on the other side. Coming up, we're breaking down this entire card over best bets from the main, the co-main, the prelims, underdogs, parlays. We got it all for you. BC, Danny Brasco, Claudia, back with you here on the Early Edge. On the other side. Back here in the Early Edge, breaking down UFC 325 with BC, Danny Brasco. I am CB, Claudia Bellofatto. We're going to break down some prelims first. We'll get into the main card. BC, I'm coming to you first. You're looking at middleweight Malkoun and Finney. I know you're looking to end via decision. Curious if you have any lean on his side here? Because Finney, as we know, just 1-0 in his UFC career debut in April, but pro career 11-0. He's plus 130 dog. Malkoun minus 166. The longer resume, but he's only 4-3 in his UFC career, 4 of his last 6 by decision. Is there a reason you're just staying away from his side? Do you think it just goes the distance?
I think this fight is going to be a little bit dreadful and goes the distance. For all the bangers on this card, Jacob Malkoun here and Therese Finney, I think could be a wrestle fest. It obviously could be the kind where the wrestling cancels each other out and we get sloppy striking. Either way, I expect to see 15 minutes of action here. If you recall, Therese Finney got the unprecedented 3 tryouts on the Dana White Contender Series as Dana White routinely mocked him for not being aggressive enough. He went to the scorecards in his UFC debut, and even though Jacob Malkoun was knocked out in his UFC debut, it happened 6 years ago, he's been pretty durable since then, juggling wins and losses. You can flip a coin on who's going to win this, but does it go the distance at minus 160? I say it does.
All right, so that is the play there. Market obviously agrees with you with it being priced at minus 160. Danny Brasco, looking at the prelims, what fight stands out to you?
I'm looking at Jonathan McAuliffe taking on Oban Elliott. And to be frank, I'm just a bit down on Oban Elliott. He's a very good MMA player, extremely well-rounded, but he doesn't seem to excel in any area. And in his last fight, he was a big betting favorite and got pretty much dominated for every round by a debuting fighter on the ground. So I really, previously was higher on Oban Elliott's ability to mix in that grappling. Getting out-grappled so badly, now I give McAuliffe the edge potentially there, who's got long limbs, 77-inch reach advantage, 5-inch reach advantage with that 77-inch reach, and he uses it with his jiu-jitsu attack as well. If he is taken down by Elliott, he can threaten with triangle chokes from bottom position. If he gets top position, I like his arm triangle from half guard, and he throws heavy kicks from the outside. I think he's the more dangerous striker, the more dynamic and interesting commodity. It could go the distance, but McAuliffe might have more moments, and for that reason, I'm going to back him on the money line.
You're getting smiles and head nods from BC, so I'm assuming that he agrees with you there. Let's move on to some props. Favorite prop on the board, Danny Brasco, can be prelims, main event, whatever it is. Favorite prop.
I like the Battle Giraffe, Cam Rouston by knockout here at plus 160. First of all, how are you not going to back him with a nickname like that? But second of all, he's facing Cody Brundage, and it's a favorable matchup because it pits pretty much a long, rangy striker training out of City Kickboxing here, hometown fans will be behind him, against a wrestler in Cody Brundage. And in his last fight, Rouston knocked out the wrestler, Andre Petrosky. So yes, Brundage is an improved striker. He's had some weird outcomes in the UFC. Pretty much every possible thing that can happen in a fight has happened in a Cody Brundage fight. So maybe sprinkle the disqualification or the draw, but skill for skill, Rouston is a much better striker. And if he keeps it standing, he's going to have a big advantage. I think he knocks Brundage out in this fight. BC,
what are you thinking for a prop?
I'm going to go with the light heavyweight division here in this matchup between Junior Tafa and Billy Elikana to end via KO. You're going to get plus 100 opportunity on that one. And look, we know the Tafa brothers have an MO. It's to hang and bang until they go down or their opponent does. But Tafa's looking to reinvent himself at light heavyweight by cutting right down. He was submitted in his first opportunity, so you have to believe there's some urgency here to go for broke, lean on his strengths. It's an oceanic matchup here, New Zealand versus Australia. I don't think it goes the difference with this heavyweight turned light heavyweight. When you cut down in weight out of desperation, you're not as durable as you were in the past. Tafa loves to slug. This feels like an easy call for me, but I've been wrong before, but let's not talk about that.
You know what, BC? We've all been wrong before, okay? That's life. I'm going to look at Aussie on Aussie violence. Can we call it that, with the lightweight battle between Killian Salkid, who's minus 1050, guys, against Jamie Malarkey. This number has absolutely ballooned. We saw it open around minus 700. The market doesn't care. They are absolutely hammering him. But my favorite part of this all is Jamie Malarkey comes out and says, what are you guys talking about? This is a very winnable fight for me. He says the style matchup favors him. He's going to mix it up, bring the forward pressure. He said, I'm going to dictate the pace. Now, of course, we hear every fighter come in saying this style is going to favor me. I have the confidence. But he was going through it. He said before he felt like he was fighting for his job. Now he says the sort of short notice, he's like, it's 4 weeks. That's enough. And it's almost better for me because my mind is fresher. My body's fresher. I shook off the cobwebs. I don't feel like I'm fighting for my job anymore. He got the rebound win after the back-to-back knockout losses. He's like, I'm ready. And I think the more interesting part of this is that Salkil actually said, I think this is going to be a little bit of a scrap. There's a reason he's a massive favorite. He's 10-1 as the pro, 3 big wins to start the UFC career. But we just saw him come off of short notice, and I'm sure you guys saw it. For those who didn't see it out there, go watch what he did to Nasser at Hack Press. It was a scary, and he watched the video after too, and even he was like, oh man, that did not look good. Brutal head kick, first round knockout. So he's probably feeling good. Market is absolutely loving him. The play though I'm going to go here is over 1.5 rounds at plus money. You might think that's crazy, massive favorite. They're expecting him to finish this early, but he said he's expecting a scrap, a few wrestling exchanges, and then specifically a TKO or submission stoppage late round 2 or 3. So guys, for somebody who's laying 1050 on the money line, if he feels this is going to go one way or the other, I'm going to back him over 1.5 rounds plus 124. Now tell me, Danny, am I being silly? Is he saying this for the smoke and mirrors and he's going to come out there and this is going to end in 35 seconds or what?
No, I think this is a sharp play because after a head kick bang or a right hand down the middle to knock out Anshul Jubli inside 20 seconds, everyone's just going to back the round 1 KO. But styles make fights. Like you said, Malarkey has been chinned by a lot of opponents. He's been knocked out 6 times in the UFC, but he's a veteran. He's been in there and gone to decision with some tough competitors as well. And Salkild actually broke his foot on that head kick. So maybe he's not 100%. Maybe he needs to figure things out a little bit. We just saw Ateba Gautier as a minus 1,000 favorite go the distance in his fight. You know, anything's possible, Claudia. So I like the play here.
Yeah, last 4 wins for Malarkey by decision, last 4 losses, he got knocked out. BC, I know you talk to fighters week in and week out. Is it that you find they just sort of gas themselves up for themselves, or do you think there's some truth here that we might see 2 rounds?
It all really comes down to me, the combination of the durability of Malarkey and then just the idea of fighting back at home on a pay-per-view main card. Or I'm sorry, we've eliminated pay-per-view in the States. At
yes, Paramount Plus.
On a numbered PLE, if you will, you have to believe sometimes that pressure can be on you to do too much. The reference to Gautier is perfect in this case because we had him really as like the next John Jones, Francis Ngannou hybrid until suddenly he struggled last time out. But for all the attention Gautier got going 3-0 in his debut last year in 2025 with the UFC, Salkild should be getting just as much mention. That highlight reel head kick you talked about. Wow. So brutal. Could it push to round 2? I like that sharp play right there, but I don't know, Malarkey's durability in question. It's not an easy life we live here, but hey, I like living on the edge.
He said he's feeling good. So I'm feeling good about it. We'll see. UFC 325, we're just getting started here on the other side. We're bringing you some plus money, folks. Parlays, underdogs. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the Early Edge. We're breaking down UFC 325 with Brian Campbell, Danny Brasco. I'm Claudia Bellofatto. Let's get to some plus money, fellas. Underdogs up first. We already talked about Malkoun Finney. BC said his favorite play here was for the fight to end via decision. But Danny Brasco, you think there's some value here if you pick a side? Oh, Danny, you're muted.
Oh, no way. Can you guys get
problems.
me now?
Yeah, we got you now. Let's hear it.
Let's go. I am back, baby. Yeah, BC, I think he characterized this fight well. It could be an ugly grappling match in which, you know, the wrestler, Finney's going to look to chain those attempts together, and more of the MMA grappler, Malkoun, might shut that down. But I have my questions about Jacob Malkoun coming back from a serious back injury, long layoff as well. I think he could have trouble dealing with a guy built like a straight-up bowling ball in Torres Finney. His MMA game isn't all that evolved yet, but he's been spending a lot of time with Daniel Cormier, those Gilroy wrestlers, so that could really help his style. He's got that huge clobbering overhand right that I like with his game. You see the wrestlers often ankle pick low for the single leg, come over top with the right hand. He has a chance to hurt Malkoun with one of those, and if he could stay tenacious with his wrestling attack, I think he might overwhelm Malkoun. So Malkoun feeling like a little bit of a soft favorite at minus 160. I'm going to take the underdog shot on the 11-0 Torres Finney.
All right, starting strong with some plus money. We're going to get to parlays as well. But BC, if you're looking at your favorite underdog on this card, who stands out to you?
I got to go Tai Tuivasa. I got to roll the dice on Bam Bam. And while I've been certainly a big critic of him at big times in his career for not training enough, for taking tough fights not far removed from tough knockout losses. He's got a couple things going in his favor. One, desperation. Two, still in his physical prime here at age 32. And three, that time off, hopefully, and he said it himself this week at the press conference, gave him the mental and physical rejuvenation period that he's needed. Look, when he's at his best, Tai Tuivasa's dangerous. We saw that all the way up to the level of fighting Cyril Gane, in which he hurt him multiple times before getting stopped himself. 5 straight defeats, a lot of those against elite competition. And against Talison Teixeira, the 6'8" striking favorite here out of Brazil, this is a guy who's really just not proven. Got knocked out in 35 seconds against Derek Lewis, although he did have moments early, and hasn't gotten past the first round in any of his pro fights to date. I think you take Tuivasa's experience advantage, the fact that he's fighting literally in his home city of Sydney, and oh, by the way, it might be a win is a necessity to keep his job. You get that crowd behind him. You get those shoes filled up with the proper liquids. I think you're getting a big-time Tuivasa comeback win here over a guy in Teixeira who's fun on paper, but I don't know if he's going to be long for this division in the long run.
It's hard for me. I don't know if we've seen weigh-ins or what. Like, I think it just really depends what he looks like. Because, again, we talk about the talk. Talk is cheap, though. If he comes in and he looks like he's been partying, which he's admitted that sometimes fighting takes a backseat to his partying. He's starting beer companies, all of this. I don't know. It worries me a little bit. But those are your two underdog plays that the fella's like. Now let's talk some parlays, BC. Where are you going here?
I got a parlay I'm cooking up called Brazilians for life right here. And the irony, of course, is that neither of these Brazilian gentlemen even live or train in the nation anymore. But if I can take together the money line of Diego Lopes in the main event, I'm tipping my hand on my final bet there, and Mauricio Hufi, who was a slight favorite in a very difficult fight against Rafael Fiziev. But Hufi, who trained out of the Fighting Nerds in Brazil, left that camp after his grappling got extensively exposed on the wrestling side by Benoit Saint-Denis in a submission loss, moved over to Australia, to Joe Lopez's gym there, Freestyle MMA, home of Alexander Volkanovski. Lopez, of course, Brazilian-born, fights and is a trainer himself out of the Lobo gym in Mexico. I think you pile these two money lines together, get plus 296 odds. I like it in both ways. We'll get into that main event further, but I think Hufi has a lot of motivation here to come out and remind us how great he is, and I think the added work on the ground with Volk and company there, we're going to see some new wrinkles out of him.
Danny, I'm going to get to your parlay in a second, but there was actually a prop I didn't mention earlier, BC, in this fight. I'm curious if you think this could be a possible parlay with Hufi. And to go the distance is minus 150. Fiziev's last 3 losses, 2 were against Justin Gaethje, and 2 of those went to decision. They were the fights of the night. We know he's going to bring the volume with the striking, the high level. He has the wrestling, all of that. And Hufi, what he needed to fix was the wrestling. Now that he has that in his arsenal, do you see this going the distance and leaving it up to the judges?
I do. I think it'll be one of those tense duels where both exciting strikers will be constantly feinting and threatening the big strike. You'll certainly see some of them landed, but I think Fiziev's been very durable. He did have that one defeat, which was injury-led. Yes, the 2 losses to Justin Gaethje, we're certainly not going to hold those against him, even though there's an urgency on both sides to get a much-needed big win that can push him further into that top 10. Yeah, I see this going the distance. I think that's a strong play.
For Hufi, all but one of his fights have been by stoppage, so this certainly would be a change. But hey, when you go and train with Volk, maybe that changes your approach, and we know that he has the defense, so curious to see how that turns out. That is one of my plays for that fight to go the distance. Maybe parlay it like BC is doing with Hufi to win. Okay, Danny Brasco, parlay, what do you got?
Let's look at the prelims here. A lot of guys that UFC fans are not going to know, even avid fans may not know. Asian circuit fighters coming on the road to UFC tournament. And someone I want you to watch out for that'll be the first leg of the parlay is Sulang Rangbo. There's Madonna, there's Seal, and there's Sulang Rangbo, the one-name wonder here. I think this kid's got the it factor, and you're going to have to watch out for his smooth striking style, bouncing in and out of the pocket. I think he's the more talented fighter in this matchup, so I like him on the money line to kick things off. I'll pair him up with Cam Rouston, who we took to get the knockout win against Cody Brundage. If he can't get the knockout, I still think his jiu-jitsu is good enough to fend off Brundage's grappling attack. He's the more well-rounded fighter. The battle giraffe will win that matchup. And let's close it out with a guy that we all seem to like, I think, if he can get the fight to the floor, and that's Billy Elikana, who's taking on Junior Tafa, a guy that's very dangerous striker, granite in his fist, but he's a fish on the ground. He has been exposed for his lack of submission defense. Elikana took the back of Bogdan Guskov, ranked light heavyweight in his UFC debut, despite losing, and we've seen him get rear naked choke wins in his last one against Kevin Christian. So I think the grappling will be too much. If Elikana can get it done, we'll cash a plus 149 parlay.
There you have. We gave you prelims, we gave you underdogs, we gave you parlays. You know what is coming up on the other side. We're getting to the co-main, the main event. We're giving you our best bets, and we're going to be joined by Hayden Iverson on the other side. The first show for him. He's joining the CBS crew. It's going to be great. Don't go anywhere. Back here on the early edge, breaking down UFC 325. And there we have it. I've been saying his name all show long. Hayden Iverson joins us. Brian Campbell, Danny Brasco, Claudia Bellofatto with you. We're going to give you guys our best main event and co-main bets coming up. But first, Hayden, floor is yours. First time on the show. First time it's going to be a long time coming, though. How you feeling?
I feel good, but I think the pressure's on a little bit because the last time I was on the show with you, I told you to bet Petr Yan on the money line against Merab Dvalishvili. So I got to come back with something better. People are probably going to be hyped up to see what I bet next. But not every week you can cash a plus 330 money line in a title fight. This week, maybe we'll cash another big one. We'll see.
We don't know that, Hayden. Maybe you can. We don't know yet. This is your first time, I'm feeling it. Let's put it to the test then. We'll start with co-main Dan Hooker, Benoit Saint-Denis. We've talked about the storylines. We talked about some plays we like here. BSD, a big favorite. How do you approach this one?
Well, I'm actually going to take a little bit of a chalk here. I'm going to go with the under 2.5 rounds at minus 185. And I'm usually not a guy that likes to lay chalk, but when I get a price like this that I think is truly mispriced, I think it should be about a minus 230 here. I just love the violence on both sides. I could see this fight finishing in every aspect. We have the submission threat for BSD, the KO threat we saw in his last fight against Beneil Dariush. And on the other side with Hooker, Hooker's as dangerous as they come on the feet, the knees, the elbows, the punches. And he's sneaky with the guillotine as well. We know BSD is probably going to be trying to grapple him. So he's got to watch out for that guillotine. But 10 straight fights for Benoit Saint-Denis to hit the under 2.5 rounds. Let's make it 11 come this Saturday. I love it so much. I'm willing to lay the minus 185 price tag.
So let me ask you this then. You say Dan Hooker is a threat. I think some of us are sort of doing a parlay with BSD to bring the juice down. You can go under on rounds, or you can do submission or knockout, which is what I'm doing at minus 130. Is there a reason you're not picking one guy over the other and you're just going with the rounds? Does Hooker scare you?
He does give me, a little bit of pause because BSD is a bit reckless, right? Like we've seen BSD go into fights where he can get hit a lot. So, I mean, if you're going into a fight against a dangerous guy that can put you out, that does give me a little bit of pause. I do think Benoit Saint-Denis is the rightful favorite. I do think he's going to pull off the finish here. But with Hooker kind of coming into this one off of the loss after he was on that win streak, I think he could just kind of go for broke. And when you're that dangerous, I'm always going to give you your respect in the opportunity for you to finish the fight. So I'd rather take the under instead of, BSD at minus 340.
All right. And BC, I see you have the fight to go the distance here. BSD, the massive favorite. Not that it's always correlated, but his UFC debut loss was the only time they needed the judges' scorecard. So talk to me about this one going the distance.
Yeah, I got to go against Iverson here and give him the answer and say, look, it seems obvious that we should go with the under here, that BSD will continue the stoppage run. And we love Hooker, but we know that in some ways he's a sheep being led to the slaughter here against the better fighter. But I'm a big bettor when it comes to motivation, when guys need to win or need a performance. So while I'm not going to argue for a Hooker win right here, the idea of this going the 15-minute distance at plus 200 is intriguing. I know Hooker isn't fighting in his home nation, but it's close enough here in in the Oceanic region. A lot of pride will be at stake coming off of that second-round submission loss to Saryukian. And I did talk to Hooker this week, and he said, look, it's crowded at the top. I don't expect that even with a win that I'm in the big title, sweepstakes, but he said a BMF title opportunity still matters to him. And I think if you dig a little bit deeper, can Hooker absorb a loss here? Yes, he could, even though it would be 2 in a row. He's coming off a 3-fight win streak before that. But Hooker's going to be 36 in 2 weeks. There's only a certain amount of big money fights left. And I think he's starting to realize that Paddy Pimblett coming off the Gaethje loss could end up being a perfect fight for him, a big money opportunity where he can play that villain on that B-side and maybe be the perfect setup for Paddy to bounce back. That's a long-winded way to say, I think we're going to see a lot of pride out of Hooker here. Will he make it a brawl? Yes. Will he absorb damage? Yes. But I think he goes the distance, gets the respect, and then UFC matchmakers go, how are you in about 4 months for Paddy Pimblett? Let's do it.
And BSD can certainly take some damage as well. I love this. Hayden Iverson coming in hot, going heads up with BC. Danny Brasco, you and I are a bit more on the same page. Talk to me about how you're betting BSD here.
Well, I'm with Hayden on the sentiment that BSD minus 340 is inflated. Dan the Hangman Hooker could put anyone down, and he talked about it. BSD invites chaotic exchanges. He'll walk right through the fire. As durable as he is, I don't necessarily want to lay a favorite that's doing that against Dan Hooker, who's gotten into some insane scraps with the likes of Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, you name it, legends of the division. But eventually, Claudia, I think that he will fold to the pressure. The word of the week when talking about Benoit Saint-Denis is capitulate. He will break you. And it's going to be the accumulation of damage that I think really mounts up. We saw Arman Tsarukyan, the grappler, had lots of striking success against Hooker. And once he started to hurt him, he got to that takedown, he found the arm triangle. I think it's going to look similar. BSD starting to find his shots, dirty box, walk through the fire, take him to the ground, eventually find the back, and just like he did to Mauricio Rufy, even after Rufy reversed him a couple times, gave him, some difficulty on the ground, he works through it, he makes you just break and finds the choke. I think that's what's going to happen in this matchup. Benoit Saint-Denis by submission at plus 160 is going to be my play for the co-main.
Yeah, I'm going to go with BSD submission or knockout, minus 130. I think this is a crazy price for the two most likely outcomes. I have to agree, I don't see this going the distance. I just think between him taking the damage with the takedown attempts, guys, 11 fights in the UFC. He already has 24 takedowns. 10 of the fights ended in under 2 rounds. We talked about with him in this new coach, the 3 fights all by stoppage. I just see BSD winning this, coming out on top. I don't know if this number's inflated or what, but I'm going to bring the juice down by saying it's a submission or knockout. Let's move on to the main event, fellas, shall we? Round 2 with Volk and Diego Lopes. It is the sequel, and I'm seeing on my notes here, Diego Lopes across the board. A lot of these to finish early. So talk to me, BC. You're first.
I'm going to go money line here and not mess so much with the way that this ends. But you get plus 120 here for Lopes as the underdog, second time in a year against Volkanovski. I just like the things that he's talking about, the work that he's putting in wrestling in multi-different areas, working with a Canadian Olympic, working in Oklahoma to round out that side of his game. We know he's got a great submission game too. And when I talked to Volk about Lopes's power this week, he said, look, it was thudding, it was heavy, it hurt. The only issue he said Lopes had is some of the punches were wild that didn't hit him square. But I like what Lopes is framing as everything he learned and what he knows he needs to do. Even though that Silva fight was wild, I think he was able to control himself in that storm and properly set up Silva. So what does that mean for Volk? Well, it's obviously going to be a much different fight, but I can't just forget about the deterioration and the chin fears that we have for Volkanovski, especially when he had back-to-back knockout losses to Islam Makhachev and Ilia Topuria. Yes, we're talking about the number 1 and 2 pound-for-pound fighters in the game, and one of those fights were up at lightweight. But at 37, your time is going to be limited at the top. And don't forget this. Might be a romanticized narrative to lean into, but in boxing and MMA at the highest levels, a lot of times for great champions, we see them have one great moment left where they can pour out the jug, stand firm, and get a big victory. I fear for Volkanovski. That was last April against Lopez. He got dropped. He got hurt. He fought the better game plan. It helped that Lopez fought a horrible one. I don't think we're going to see that out of Lopez again. And I think if he cuts off the cage, gives the threat of wrestling, and can land more shots that hurt Volk, a decision win could be in his favor. So could a knockout. Either way, at plus 120 money line, BC's going to cash in big. All right. Yeah, let's go.
And BC, you talked about how Lopez was very vocal. He just abandoned his game plan. He was looking for the knockout. So maybe, well, I shouldn't say maybe. For sure, they're going to have a different game plan because he really got saved by the bell in that first round. So maybe he's not as aggressively looking for the knockout, Hayden, but you do think that's how this ends.
Yeah, I want to extract as much value as I can out of this underdog because let's be real. I mean, if this fight goes to decision, that means Volkanovski's probably getting his hand raised. Volkanovski's one of the best minute winners in UFC history and, in my opinion, the best featherweight of all time. So you're going to have to knock him out. The only guy he's ever lost to in the weight class, Ilia Topuria, did exactly that. We saw Diego Lopez hurt him in the second round of the last fight. So coming into this rematch, he knows he can hurt Alexander Volkanovski, but he also knows he's probably not going to win a decision. So he's got to go for broke. If he doesn't come out here and be aggressive, then he's had another failed game plan. But coming into this fight, there's a lot of different stuff going on with the motivation factor. Alexander Volkanovski in the first fight was trying to get his belt back. He had lost it to Topuria. The belt was nobody's. Now coming into this one, he has the belt to protect, and that's a different level of motivation compared to Diego Lopez going into that first fight. It's his first 5-rounder. It's his first main event. He's fighting one of the best fighters of all time. He gets that experience. He goes out, knocks out a guy that nobody wants to fight, Jean Silva, and then comes into this one a little bit more motivation and confidence. He comes in here, knocks out Alexander Volkanovski at plus 330. I think it's kind of his win condition. So if I'm going to lean towards the underdog here in a dog or pass situation, for me, I'm not in the business of laying chalk on a 37-year-old champion. So I'll take Diego Lopez to get it done.
And if we look at that first fight, Danny, we already talked about there wasn't much offense for Lopez and the volume was there for Volk. But when Lopez connected, everybody's like, every single time. So I do see a knockout as a real possibility. How are you playing this, Danny?
Well, BC and Hayden set it up perfectly for me because I get to play this right down the middle of both of their takes. I agree with Hayden. You look at the odds makers, the market of finish only or decision only is a really interesting one to play. That means if I'm playing Diego Lopez finish only at minus 140, meaning if it goes to the judges' scorecards, the bet has no action. You're void, you get your money back. And the decision-only market is minus 475 for Alexander Volkanovski. So to his point, odds makers strongly favoring the champ to be able to win on the scorecards. It's going to be hard to beat Volk in a pure kickboxing match. And for that reason, I think, like he said, the win condition is the knockout. So I'll play it conservatively and be able to get the push condition, my money back, if he's not able to find that finish. We're talking about Volk. Can he break the 35 and over curse for the second time? The durability is still in question. He took that big shot. And like we're all mentioning, the cutting off the cage, right? The raw aggression. He's asking Volk, meet me in the center. Come here, stop running away. That's ego. And I think if Diego Lopez can really hone that ego in, he's not going to be loading up that right hand out of position so often, right? And just chasing Volk for the whole fight. I think he has the chance to find that other shot, especially if he gets the grappling threat going too. If Volk is forced to defend takedowns and defend jiu-jitsu, then the punches can open up too. I like Lopez with the knockout shot. Finish only gives you the submission opportunity as well. And if he doesn't get the finish and it goes the distance, then we get our money back.
There's something in Lopez's brain. It's like the second he gets hit, he's just like, give it to me, more. He's like, I won't let myself feel this pain. It's a lean for me for this to go the distance at even money. I just think the fact that Lopez, in his first fight going the 5 rounds, in his first title fight, taking all the damage that he did in the first round, he eventually was able to put the pressure on. He got into some sort of rhythm. But looking at that first fight, seeing that go the distance, I think that they can do it again. I know we have all the worries about Volk, but I know he has the resume. I know he has the defense, and the majority of his wins have come via decision. He is the favorite, at least by the odds makers rules. There we have it, our first ever block with Hayden Iverson. When we come back on the other side, we're going to give you our best bets. Don't go anywhere here on The Early Edge. Back here in the early edge, breaking down UFC 325. We are wrapping this lovely show up with some best bets. Brian Campbell, Danny Brasco, I'm Claudia Bellofatto, and we are joined by Hayden Iverson. Hayden, best bet on this entire card. What are you looking at?
Going to the co-main event, I don't think this fight's going the distance, but it's already pretty chalky at minus 250. So we're actually going to get some plus money here. We're going to take the fight to end by submission. BSD loves to get to the back, sink in that rear naked choke. Also got a decent arm triangle choke. And then we get the guillotine threat from Dan Hooker. There's my first best bet of the night. And then we're going to go to the prelims. And we're going to take the under 1.5 rounds in the Cam Rowson and Cody Brundage fight at minus 105. Cody Brundage kind of round one or bust. And then after that, he doesn't really love to stay in the fight. Cam Rowson coming off back-to-back round one KOs. I think we're getting a nice number here at minus 105. Slight little dog money, not quite in that plus money, but at a near pick 'em, I think it goes under 7.5 minutes.
All right, and I will just tally off that because I'm going with BSD by submission or knockout for everything I mentioned before. All he knows is stoppages lately. 10 straight, all 8 of his UFC wins have come via finish. And Hooker, I don't know, maybe he's a little distracted. He has his own promotion on the side. He can talk about not caring about anybody's safety and health all he wants. I think that BSD gets it done. BC, favorite best bets on this card. What do you got?
I mentioned earlier, I love the underdog bet in Tai Tuivasa, the money line at plus 300. Let's come out here. Let's save your job. Let's everybody spit in the same shoe. And let's get back to doing what you do, filling great spots on cards and making action fights. Also, that Quillen Salkild knockout, minus 170. It just feels so good right here. Malarkey is there to be hit. Salkild is still rising. I don't expect him to hit that young early wall just like Ateba Gauthier did last week. Let's go Salkild big at home by KO.
As long as it goes over 1.5 rounds, I love it, BC. Danny Brasco, best bets. What do you got?
A fight that we have talked about not nearly enough is Mauricio Hufi taking on Rafael Fiziev. I love Hufi to get this bounce back win at minus 120. Feels a little bit reminiscent to Sean O'Malley versus Song Yadong in terms of the matchmakers, right? Giving him a favorable matchup, a striker versus striker, where he's not going to have to defend that same grappling threat that BSD broke him with in his last fight. And Hufi is no fraud. You know, even though a lot of people feel like he maybe isn't the guy they thought he was, he reversed BSD multiple times on the ground in that fight. He hit him with a flying knee. It wasn't like he just got totally dominated. This guy has a lot of dynamism to his game. I think he gets to show that out against a pure Muay Thai style striker in Fiziev, who's taken a lot of damage over the last few fights against Justin Gaethje and an MCL injury he sustained against Mateus Gamrot that kept him sidelined for a while. I think Hufi's going to be too much for him in a beautiful striking matchup. And looking on the prelims, I got to take Billy Alicana by KO or sub against Junior Tafa, whose submission defense just forces me to bet against him. He was arm triangled by my Greek brother, Tuko Tokos, in the last fight. Look, shout out Tuko Tokos, but I didn't think he was UFC caliber. Watching Tafa lose to him forces me to side with a guy like Alicana who has the grappling skills to expose him.
Hayden, we have a few minutes here. Off the top of the show, we talked about UFC 324 and what a great card it was for an intro to UFC for those who are new to UFC on the Paramount Plus era. Thoughts on UFC 324? Did it turn out how you thought it would with Pimlet and Gaethje, rest of the card? Any initial thoughts on UFC 324?
Well, the main event was a little bit shocking because I thought Paddy Pimblett would try to implement some grappling, but he decided to go out there and throw hands. I don't think it was the greatest game plan, but it surely put on a good performance for the fans. You know, everyone was excited when that fight was going on, and Gaethje still got it, man. But somewhere in the world, I think Ilia Topuria was licking his chops watching that fight because that next fight, I think the odds are out, and Ilia Topuria is minus 600. It was a good card. It was a great card, but the main event was very shocking if I had to break it down.
Yeah, I had Gaethje knockout, Patty submission. I'm like feeling so good about it. It was one of my best bets. I mean, I went 4-1, just saying. That was the only one I didn't hit. But it was really shocking. BC, where did the grappling go? Where was the submission? Why did he change what he's been doing and what's been so successful for him?
He wanted to make a big punch his ticket to stardom, kicking off, becoming the face of the Paramount era. I don't hold it against him. Was it bad game planning? Yeah. It entertained all of us, though. And in the end, he gained more fans than he maybe would have won by winning. I'm serious about that. People are giving him his flowers and respect. Let's go, Patty.
Great 324. Now we have UFC 325 in Sydney, Australia. It's going to be a great one. BC, Danny Brasco, Hayden Iverson. Thanks for hanging out with us. You can catch the Early Edge Monday through Friday. Every day we're giving you all of the plays you need across all sports. Scan that QR code to watch now. Enjoy UFC 325. Thanks for hanging out with us.